Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Diamond Mine. Danny Diamond here. Cheers to you and yours. We're going to take a little bit of time here and engage in another episode of Listomania. Today, we're going to talk about the metal gods, Judas Priest. Fantastic group. They're in my top. There's only two metal bands that I love more than Priest, and that would be Maiden and Sabbath. So I love Priest dearly, have ever since my introduction to them around 1982. Fantastic band. What we're doing here, we're going to do the studio album ranking of their 18 albums from worst to first, and I've divided it up into thirds. So the bottom third, I'm gonna pick one top track from each album. The middle third, I'm gonna pick 2 tracks per album, and the top third, I'm gonna pick 3 tracks per album. I may cheat on my number 1 pick. Okay, but we're gonna start right off here. I don't know how surprised anybody's gonna be, but my pick for their worst album, Ram It Down, 1988. Blood Red Skies is going to be my pick for top track on here. That did make it onto the excellent compilation Metalworks. That's a great song, but I think what landed this in the bottom spot, it just barely edged out number 17 for worst album because of the embarrassing corny cover of Johnny B. Good. So we're going to move right along here, and we're only going to talk about this quickly because boy, what a turkey this was compared to the rest of the Priest output. Turbo. This came out in 1986. I was still in high school. I coming off of the high of Defenders of the Faith, I had been really looking forward to this album. A lot of my friends, we were really huge Priest fans, and everyone pretty quickly started talking about how much this album sucks. But Turbo Lover, it's still kind of cool. The production on this album is lacking, in my opinion. There's some just bad 80s choices. I really don't like the drum sound. So moving right along and taking a pretty big step forward in quality. The second album with Tim Ripper Owens on vocals, Demolition. And my top pick on here is going to be Machine Man. This came out in 2001. Some good material here, just not all that, just very dissimilar. May have been a better album if they called the band, released it under a different band name. It might be more warmly received. But then here at number 15, 2008's Nostradamus. I do admire the ambition of this record. The execution was a little lacking. It's a little overlong and just a little dull, which is sort of a cardinal sin for a record. But Prophecy is good, and this is an interesting album to explore. Just make sure you've got some coffee. Let's see here. Moving right along. The debut album from 1974, Rock-a-Rolla. And one thing about Priest is they know how to open a record. The opening track is always one of the strongest, if not the strongest track on the album. That's certainly, in my opinion, the case here with One for the Road. So that's my top track pick off of the debut, Rock-a-Rolla. And then I'm going to tell you that I started this ranking in earnest April 21st, and there were a number of incarnations. There are a few albums that really screwed things up for me because I had sort of my preconceived notions of those records before digging a little deeper to make this list. And what I've noticed in making these rankings so far is, for me, usually I'm pretty clear on what my top picks are. It's usually the bottom part of the catalog that's a little harder for me to rank. So, but taking a big step forward in quality, by far the best of this bottom tier, I'm going to give it to Jugulator. 1997's Jugulator, the first album with Tim Owens on vocals. It rather rips. See what I did there? Okay, now not only does Priest do really well with opening tracks, they're really great with their title tracks. Are usually some of the strongest things on the record. So when you've got the opening track as the title track, you've got something good here. So I'm going to give the top track here to Jugulator. So that finishes up the bottom third. We are moving right along here. I may do an expanded edition later on this, but for right now, I'm going to try and keep it going at a pretty good clip. Now, I think all metal fans were really excited about Rob Halford's return to the band in 2005. They did not disappoint. They put out the excellent Angel of Retribution. Top tracks for me here are Judas Rising and Demonizer. Just a cranking tune, Demonizer. Now, after the misstep of Nostradamus, they put out what got picked on the internet as Metal Album of the Year by a lot of different websites. And I listened to this nonstop when it first came out in 2014. Redeemer of Souls, excellent record. I'm going to give top track picks to Redeemer of Souls, the title track, and Halls of Valhalla, one of the best latter-day Rob Halford vocal performances. Okay. Now, in terms of the ranking, no one album kind of threw me for a loop more, or as much even, as this next one. When I heard the sad news about Glenn Tipton's, when they made his longtime struggles with Parkinson's disease public, I kind of slept on this record. I think the idea of Priest touring without Glenn Tipton was just depressing to me at the time. You know, my aunt had one of my favorite aunts, Annie Jane, had struggled with Parkinson's disease. So, you know, I really didn't pay attention to this record. Boy, was that a mistake. This thing is fantastic. Firepower from 2018. This is the most recent Judas Priest release. You've got new guitarist Richie Faulkner, you know, KK Downey's replacement. Richie Faulkner, it's his second studio album with the band. He's really found his footing. Just everything, the performances, the songwriting, the production is just phenomenal on this record. I recommended it just recently to my little brother Ted, who I got into Priest a few years ago, something I'm very proud of. My top track picks here would be Lightning Strike, and then I've gotta mention, I'll let you listen to it for yourselves, but Evil Never Dies opens with what might be the funniest Judas Priest lyric ever. Fantastic record, Firepower. Now this next record is a real dark horse among the catalog. It gets a lot of grief from Priest fans, but I personally, I just love this record. I kind of always have ever since I got it in cassette shortly after becoming a fan. I think it was one of the first things I bought after, you know, I was introduced to the band in '82 with Screaming for Vengeance, but I love the predecessor to that, Point of Entry. Now, this is there's another album cover that's more well known in Europe, but this is sort of the USA release, the cover for Point of Entry. Heading Out to the Highway is absolutely the top track off this for me. That's a top 10 in the whole catalog for me. Love that song. And then, although I'm partial to the entire thing, I also have to give special kudos to Solar Angels. That's a fantastic and just kind of weird and wonderful track for me. Now, here on out, you know, so Point of Entry was at number 9. These next 8 records that I'm going to talk about, if any of you came up to me or put in the comments, you know, that one of these 8 is your pick for a top Priest record, you know, you definitely have my respect, and I'd be able to see how you could make that argument. So, Painkiller, 1990. Really like a touch of evil off of this, but the title track, Painkiller, fantastic. And the lead guitar work from both Glenn and KK on this might be the most impressive soloing that Priest has ever offered us. So, fantastic, fantastic record. And then rounding out this middle tier here, I sort of see it as a sequel to Screaming for Vengeance. 1984's Defenders of the Faith. Really, really phenomenal record. The only time I've gotten to see Priest live was on this tour. I'm going to give the top track honors to Free Will Burning and The Sentinel. So, really, really great record. Jay Rusnak, I believe this would be your pick for top album, if I'm hearing you correctly on my Facebook entries. So now here's where I get into the top tier. Oh, I'm talking about all this metal has got me parched for you Metal Maniacs. I love how Halford says that. At number 6 here, Stained Class. Now, Priest put out 2 albums in 1978, and this was one of them. Unbelievable. The quality combined with just churning out the material in the 70s. But opening track, Exciter, White Heat, Red Hot, and then Saints in Hell. Wow. This record just never gets old. In fact, it grows on me the more I listen to it. Amazing, amazing record. Surrounded by controversy. We all know about that. But Stained Class, check it out. Okay, so 1980 was quite a year for hard rock and metal releases. This year marks the 40th anniversary of this album. 1980's British Steel. British Steel, just phenomenal. Rapid Fire, the opener. You know, again, the openers are just wonderful on Priest records. Breaking the Law. I actually just earlier today taped my version of Breaking the Law, so please check that out. And then You Don't Have to Be Old to Be Wise, and one of the better Halford vocal performances. And considering, in my opinion, there's 3. Basically, the unholy trinity of metal singers for me would be Bruce Dickinson, Ronnie James Dio, and Rob Halford. So when we talk about top Halford vocal performances, we're really talking about something special. So British Steel. Also, that cover, man. Maybe the coolest Priest cover, and they've got so many really great album covers, but that is just iconic to me with the razor blade. Okay. All right. Now, this next album in Europe was known as Killing Machine. Here in the States, it was released under the name Hellbent for Leather. I'm talking about another cool album cover. But I've got to give the opening track, Delivering the Goods. Oh, man. And I remember there was some Headbangers Ball or something where they had Skid Row with Rob Halford coming in as a special guest, and Sebastian Bach and Rob Halford were trading lines on Delivering the Goods. Phenomenal. What a great memory that was. So Delivering the Goods, Evening Star, classic track, and then the title track, Hellbent for Leather. Those would be my 3 favorites off this record. Okay, so now we're getting into the top 3. I go to this album just constantly. 1977's Sin After Sin. Opening track again, Sinner. Incredible song. Starbreaker, another favorite. And then my candidate for best Judas Priest ballad of all time has got to be Last Rose of Summer. Very atypical of the band's sound. Gorgeous, gorgeous tune. Uh, my wife doesn't like much metal, and she even likes that song. Okay? So Sin After Sin, uh, really, I love every track. Every track's a highlight, but I'm trying to, you know, keep the time. We'll do an expanded edition at some point, probably. Moving on. Now, I did a vote on Facebook, and on Facebook, my choice for number 2 actually won out over my choice for number 1. And you may hear a little bit of something off this here in the background. I'm not really sure. Sad Wings of Destiny. Sad Wings of Destiny. Just fantastic. Released in 1976. Victim of Changes, the metal classic. The Ripper. Never turn your back on the Ripper, as he's saying right now here, folks. And Island of Domination. Those would be my top 3 tracks off this wonderful, wonderful piece of metal art. Okay, so that got 9 votes, and my top pick, including my vote, got 4 votes amongst those who made a clear pick on Facebook. But I am proud to say that my favorite Priest album is still the one that introduced me to the band. That's very often the case with me. It's hard to beat what gets me into a band or artist. But this album, talk about delivering the goods. Screaming for Vengeance. Everything about this album is killer, from the artwork to the vocals to the guitar playing and riffing, the production, the songwriting, just wonderful. I'm going to cheat here, and I'm going to do 4 top tracks instead of just 3. Electric Eye, Riding on the Wind, Screaming for Vengeance, the title track, which in my mind might be the very first thrash metal song ever. Okay. And then I got to give some love to Devil's Child. So, there you have it, folks. And I covered 18 albums I'm at just under 18 minutes. So, considering how long-winded I can be, I think I did pretty well. As always, thanks for watching. Please take a moment to subscribe if you haven't already. And until you see me again, please be well, enjoy life, and come back to the mine soon and often. Cheers.